Daniela Davidson, thank you so much for coming on. It's
Thank you
like
so much
such
for
a
having
joy.
me.
I have been, I get to be a little bit of a part of the like momfluencer, mommy blogger world, which is aspirational. It is genuinely aspirational. And I've looked up to you for a long time.
That's so sweet.
So I love what you've built. Bisha Tova, congratulations on your fifth pregnancy. How far along are you?
30 weeks right now. Will be 31 weeks on Saturday.
Wait, 30?
30 weeks.
Oh my gosh, this is like really happening.
Really happening, yeah. Very
There's
soon.
a person in there. Hello,
Yeah,
person.
he's actually probably listening to us right now.
Okay, great. It's a he?
I can say that. It's a boy.
Wow.
It's a
This is your second boy.
It's my second boy, yeah. Yeah, we're very happy.
Is he like punching around? Like when I
A
used to get
lot.
excited
A lot.
or like have coffee, like the babies would just be like dancing
Yeah,
around
listen,
in
I
there.
love being pregnant. I know it's
You
probably
do.
not a necessarily popular opinion or feeling, but I don't know, just feel very grateful, and I've been feeling very good, which means I feel very lucky that I've been able to still enjoy it, because I realize it's not always the case. Sometimes, depending on the pregnancy, someone, can have a hard time. But in my case, I generally just enjoy even just seeing the belly growing. It's just such a magical time.
It's magical.
Yeah.
And even the fifth time around, you still feel like it's magical?
I'm actually very, very surprised that as of now, I still feel physically good. Like I don't really have crazy back pain. I don't really. I feel myself. Obviously, I need to be more careful. And I am. I have my youngest is 22 months old.
Oh my God, Danila, what?
And
you just had her during the pandemic.
Yeah, so she's a pandemic baby, 100%.
Wow.
And as such, she is still breastfeeding, which wasn't my plan.
She's still breastfeeding.
Yeah,
So
but-
you'll tandem breastfeed, you think?
I know, yeah. So I want to be very clear about this, because I love breastfeeding, and I shared a lot in the past on Instagram and with my friends. So I tend to breastfeed. I think it's a gift, and I obviously believe that fed is best. So if there is a challenge, or if for any reason it's painful, or if you can't figure it out, there's nothing wrong with using formula. I use formula twice with two of my children, because at some point I decided to stop. And around 7-8 months, for whatever reason, and I bought formula, and they were fine, and very happy. And
I have the chills. I really believe that's true.
Right, right.
And that each child needs what they need, and that each person is incarnated in a time, in a place, in a family, in a system at their time. So what they get is what they get, what they were born to get.
I agree. And I think it's also like, the more pressure we put on us, the less milk we produce, or the more stress, the less we're able to enjoy the actual process. And I think it's a journey. So I honestly, and we can touch this probably later today, but I knew nothing about motherhood when I became a mom. Breastfeeding came to me very naturally. Like, thank God. Like, it was just natural to me. It just happened. So I tend to have this longer breastfeeding journey. So my first was like over 12 months, and it was about 8-9 months with the other two. But also the second and the third are only 18 months apart. So we were thinking about maybe having another third one. And then, one of the things, you should not be breastfeeding. So I was like not really pushing at some point. And, she just liked the bottle better. And, it kind of happened. But with this one, the fourth one, I was like, that's it. 12 months, pandemic baby, I'm home with all these children, pretty much zero help. And try to take care of myself as well. And, it's also lots of, energy and time. It's a job. I don't remember how many hours somebody once calculated the amount of hours you put in breastfeeding. It's like a full-time job for the first year, right?
Definitely like 40 hours a week for the first year.
It's crazy, right?
It is
Probably
crazy.
more, right? But anyway, she's very stubborn, and she just doesn't care.
Likes what she likes.
Yeah, she knows what she likes. So so here we go, and we'll see what we do.
Wow. Does that make you tired though?
Definitely makes me tired, especially, I won't lie to you, at night. I don't know about you, but I personally, when I'm this pregnant, at the end of the day, I start feeling itchy. Or like, like I need to move, I need to be free. I don't want to have somebody stuck on me, and then that's the time you come like, Mommy. She talks a lot. Mommy, sit down. She wants me to sit down so she can jump on me, and then she needs to watch some shorts on Netflix.
Wow. She likes what she likes.
Yeah, and then she was slowly, kind of like chill, and at some point we were able to move to the crib. And same things in the morning, and I'm busy, I'm like running around. Mommy, sit down. I'm like, babe, I can't sit down right now. So yeah, she's hilarious. She's hilarious. And I think, you know what, I know the pandemic's been very hard on many, and I think that all of us here in this room are probably very lucky, more or less, given...
And still.
Yeah, where we live and how things probably worked out for us, but it's been really so tough on so many people and so many of us. So I think that one of the good things about being a mother of multiple children during the pandemic is that my children had each other. And I generally felt so sorry for those who, for whatever reason, had one child at a time, because and I've, friends that went through it, through the pandemic with one child. And it can be very, very, very challenging because you really need to socialize. You need, human contact. You need to make friends. And these children were basically deprived of their normal existence for, how long. Kids last summer, before the summer, were still wearing masks in most schools in New York City.
My kids in Brooklyn...
Yeah.
Man, I get really rolling my eyes. Like, you can't see me, guys, but I am rolling my eyes. In Brooklyn, they were still wearing masks outside until this summer, through the summer.
Yeah, crazy.
We know that that's not necessary. Anyway, it's been...
We are not wearing them anymore.
I know. But these poor kids have been, whether they're singletons or they're, they have 3 other siblings and another on the way. Like, they've had it hard, and thank goodness for their resilience. Really, thank goodness for their resilience. And
I'm amazed by them. I'm amazed by these children. Really, like they've been fantastic, incredible. This is gonna go into the history books, right? Like what we went through, like the pandemic, and how these children have been changed for good or for bad. Suddenly to explain to a child, no, you can't really travel there or see a relative or
touch that
or touch anything. Or I become like, I've got hand sanitizer on me. I'm like, don't touch that. You can catch it. I try to be quite relaxed, but I think that we are all aware of the, how dangerous this thing was. Somehow we never got it, which I'm very surprised.
Laura was just asking if we think older kids or younger kids, adults, elderly, what age bracket had a harder time, and let's just whittle it down actually to the kids. The truth is, I don't know, because I didn't live with anyone other than a 6-month-old baby and a 3-year-old. My 6-month-old, who's now 3. Oh my God! How did that happen?
I think about this.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
The tears. She's very attached to me in a way that is so sweet, and not the experience I had with Ness, my older son, at all. He continues to be very independent, and she's confident. And I sent her to school right on time, if not earlier than I would. Because there wasn't enough socializing, and I wasn't really in a place to be fun. And so I really do think she's fine. I think she's fine. And I know that Ness at 3, in that classroom last year, not this past year, but the first year out of the pandemic, it was too tense. My son is so deeply sensitive and smart, and that was not a good combination for a young boy with 2 teachers in the classroom who were very tense. Yeah. He's fine now. But I do think that it did impact him, and it took some. I have talked in the past about how I would take him to OT and PT, not because he doesn't even qualify, to be honest. but I saw that he was having trouble, and their brains are so plastic. The neuroplasticity in their brains, the new pathways that they're able to create for themselves with some focused guidance, I saw how he changed, and he's his more comfortable
That's
self.
amazing.
But
You did the right thing.
Yeah, but there was a time where he was just a raw nerve, really. And I am curious what your experience was.
First of all, thank you for sharing, and I can relate in many ways. My experience, I would say this. There's one experience which is related to what I did experience with my children, and there's something I've been thinking of for a while going through the pandemic, was like, oh my gosh, those poor teens, the teenagers. I always felt so bad for these children because honestly, I can't even imagine what it means going through puberty and through so many physical changes. And that's the time where you need your friends the most. And I used to talk on the phone, maybe they just chat all the time, I don't know, but they also need to see them, for real, in real life. And many of these teens have been stuck home for like a year and a half, 2 years. And I think must have been very tough for those kids.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not a teen mom, so I have no idea. Like, I don't have practical information or data, but I do think that I can imagine it's been really tough on them. Now, in my case, I would say young children, I think they probably were hit the list. If I look at my pandemic baby, born 2020, she will be 2 in 2 months. Around when the baby, just probably a few weeks before the other baby comes. She is the happiest creature in the world.
Wow.
She knows nothing but beauty and food and love and
mommy.
Outdoors love. And mommy, of course, thank you. Yeah. She just so freaking happy.
Hey.
And she will remember a thing. And she was also surrounded by, I have to say, very loving sisters and brothers. So that obviously helped. But I do think that she's just, if they were born in the pandemic, I think the toughest time was probably the hardest part was on us as moms.
Yeah.
Because many times, or most of the time, we didn't have any help for whatever reasons, because it's also harder to hire people. And also, in my case, I could have hired people after she was born in September 2020, but we didn't have a vaccine yet back in the day. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to hire somebody and now I'm going to start getting all anxious because this person could bring COVID into my life. There are so many other layers and ways to look at problems just because the reality is so much more complex, right? As for my now, I'm going to cry if I say that, but my older just turned 8. That makes me feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been 8 years. And when the pandemic started, this child was still only 5. So she turned 6. She's a summer baby. She started first grade. And then I had to make a call because when we luckily have a place in Long Island, and I've been so grateful for this thing because I never ever could imagine that would become our shelter, our safe place during the pandemic. So we got in 2019. So technically this is the 4th summer, but it's only 3 years since we got our home. So we moved to Long Island during the pandemic, and it gave us opportunity to work from home because we have more space. So after the baby was born, we tried to spend maybe it was like a week or 2 in Brooklyn, where we used to live in Williamsburg. And we just realized it wouldn't be doable because my husband suddenly didn't have an office anymore and he had to work from home. And my other 3 children were just like, okay, what are we going to do here? There's no space. It's just like tiny apartment, New York City apartment. What do we do? So I had to make the call to have my now 8 years old, back then 6 years old, do first grade remotely. Because their school actually offers somehow some sort of a hybrid solution where she could have gone a few times a week or even the whole week. But we're we cannot sacrifice the whole family, literally, because still pandemic, no vaccine, working from home, and we are 5, 6 people.
Yeah.
And in order to send her to school, we are all going to basically be going crazy to tiny apartment.
Oh, so you stayed out for that whole year.
So we decided to go back to Long Island.
Wow.
So she did. But talking about resilience, she did so amazingly
Oh,
well.
I'm so happy to hear that.
On a laptop, on a computer, that when I finally met the parents of the other children in June in person, we did a play date at the end of the year. So I met a teacher in person, I met some of the parents. They literally complimented us because they were like, I can't believe this child was there and she was switching screens and stuff, everything by herself. By the end of the year, she had learned everything and she was like totally independent. And we helped her at the beginning, but then she just learned. And honestly, I'm sure would have been better to be in person, but that just shows the resilience and the fact that, with a positive outlook and mindset, everything is possible. She actually did enjoy first grade, and she went on and so second grade last year and in person finally, and everything went well. And she's a very happy child. I'm also very grateful that I must say this, that she's my first, because I love all my children, of course, but she was born with a whole soul. She's so mature. She's so thoughtful in a way that sometimes scares me, because she asks me questions that are like, oh my gosh, you're too young for this. I don't want to, talk about these things with you yet. Just, give me some time. So the fact that she's the way she is probably made her the best candidate, the best person ever to be my little team leader during the pandemic. Because at the end of the day, as much as I don't ask them to do things, it's not like I'm expecting them to parents the younger siblings, right? But, the pandemic taught us a lot, and also to our children, I think, to kind of, understand the needs of the other, the family, and just step up when they can. And she definitely did so, and I'm very grateful for her being the first, I would say.
That's amazing, and I'm really struck with. So often we sit with mothers, and I'm here for all of it, and often I'm the recipient of the sort of secret sucky parts of motherhood, and I'm sitting here and really recognizing that, and often we'll reference mommy bloggers and momfluencers and Instagram and say oh, it's all BS, all that. And I'm really reminded that I'm sitting across from someone who really you're here to spill the beans, and
Thank you.
And there are no beans to spill, it seems. I'm sure that it's been hard, and there is a side of that glossy, fabulous motherhood that is genuine, that is truthful.
Liz, I would say this. I come from a whole different background. I'm originally from Italy. I'm a political scientist. I graduated a few degrees. I have a master, I have an MBA, and I did I worked in energy and in startups before becoming a mom. And I think, I would say from the outside, two pieces to it. If you look at Instagram or social media from the outside, in a superficial way, you may not see the beauty, and how true some people are. And I say that because before producing content now, which has become, it's a passion, but it's also some sort of my side gig, my identity as a working mom.
Yeah.
They can still work from home while looking after children.
Looking after 4 children and pregnant with a 5th. Great, yes. Cool.
I met the most amazing women thanks to Instagram.
Yeah.
And I will never stop saying that. So if you want to stop...
It's a real theme.
No, for real.
No, it's we've heard that a lot, that Instagram, we roll our eyes at it and all that, but it's a real tool. And that's how I met you.
Yeah, exactly. So when I think of you, obviously, and all the other, some of my not currently best friends or close, you tend to call best friends the person you probably grew up with. So this is kind of different because I met these women mostly before the pandemic, but we grew so close. And I could talk about this thing for hours, but I would just want to say that if I'm mentally where I am, gone through a pandemic and now second pandemic pregnancy is mostly thanks to the people who supported me through Instagram, where in the meantime it become my real friends that I would chat or, in whatever, on the phone or through Instagram or via text messages, but people who are real. So the group think about us and this group of moms that they know who they are. We connected in person before the pandemic started. Most of us were based in New York. And then we created this group chat.
Oh, cool.
And that was like I didn't need anything else. I'm saying that because we were there to support one another. And I don't know, one of these friends helped me find a doula. I was desperate because I didn't know who could look after my children when I went to give birth to my fourth.
Oh, my God.
I didn't know what to do. I have no family or whatsoever. And she introduced me to the concept of doula for siblings, which I had no idea existed. And she's a doula herself, and she gave me some referrals, and I found through her, thanks to her, an amazing doula that came and took care of the children while I went to give birth to my fourth child.
Wow.
This is just an example, but we've been really for each other there, and we will always be, even though many of us, some of us have left New York City, for example. But all this to say, I am always very skeptical. I tend not to judge. I think that's probably one of the reasons why I tend to just feel serene about things and live peacefully, because I think if you are unkind to people, if you are bad to people, I don't know, I couldn't live with that. I can't be that. I can't. And I feel like keeping an open mind and being open to learn that sometimes the appearance, how things look like, is not necessarily what they are. So obviously that when we are on Instagram, most of us tend to portray ourselves at our best. But I'll say this to you, though. I'm Italian. I was born on heels. I love style and fashion. So this is who I actually am.
I see. I want to say that I see it.
Yes, that's it. No, I'm not faking it.
I know you're not. That's what's so amazing to me. There are people who are faking it, and you know what? They're bringing home a paycheck to their families, and they're providing content and entertainment and inspiration to other people. But I'm really sitting here, and I'm noticing you are not faking it.
I'm
this
like that.
This is legit.
Yes, wait. I'm like that. Like my mother, I used to walk around and like wearing like mini skirts back in the day in Italy. My mother would be like, "Why are you wearing this? It's too short for me." I'll be like, "Oh, Mom, I'm happy. Let me be." I'm like, well, I'm like 16, 18 or whatever. Just let me be. So I truly love taking care of myself and my children. So I would say, obviously, we don't always look like at our best. But, some of the shots that I publish are just pictures that I take while we walk on the street, not necessarily professional shoots or anything. Just that I am this way. And there is this very much, I remember, this is really funny. So I was always like, I hope not to sound arrogant, but I was always a bit like the first in class. In high school, and also when I was in college, I was always pretty good. And I had this thing where most people would tend to think that I was less intelligent.
Oh, because you're pretty?
Maybe because I was like this, not only, first of all, thank you for the compliment, but it's not only like kind of like pretty or cute, but also like very smiley, very good, so very... And
there's an idea that, like, if you're intelligent, that you have to be, like, I don't know, is it pessimistic or is it just, like,
I didn't look geeky. I wasn't pessimistic. I was always smiley, always ready to help. And then people would be like, yeah, you're actually like a smart Barbie, or like, just to make you laugh. But it was the thing. At the end of the day, you can be both things. And we are all of it. I am messy. There are days that I'm like, don't shower. I had Michelle, she's a mutual friend. She came over a few days ago, like, to see us. And I told her, I was like, listen, Michelle, I showered for you today. You need to thank my now 8 years old, because she looked after the children. So while I showered, I took myself 10 minutes to myself, and I'm ready for you. So most days are really hard, meaning that I don't get to sit with you and talk to you, which is something that I truly enjoy, or get ready, like, look pretty like today. But this is life, like we can't always expect to be, like always look for the high. There are high, there are lows, and just like, regular time. And so I think that focusing on what's good, the good things in your day are personally what helps me just, be generally a happy person. I'm a generally happy person. And things haven't been easy for me. It's not like things are always, actually things that never come easy to me. That's why probably I am like that. So without going dig too much into my past, but I was born in a regular family in southern Italy. Nobody spoke anything but Italian. I didn't really get too much guidance because my mom was very, very young. She wasn't even 20 when she had me. So I always thought of her more like a sister than like a mom, which growing up was amazing because I felt like we had this amazing relationship, which we still do have. We have an amazing relationship. Still, as of today, like we love each other a lot. But she wasn't like and the thing is, once you are a mom yourself,
you start to understand.
I feel like as a mom now, I see things with different perspective.
Yeah.
Which, being totally honest, sometimes means that I'm like, oh my gosh, I get why my mom did that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I feel like, I would not have done that. Meaning, I do not necessarily approve
of my own mother. Right, of course.
What she did back in the day. And it's not in a judgmental way, but I used to say to myself growing up, you want to know at least what you don't like or who you don't want to be, so you can be different. Even if you don't know yet who you want to be or what you want, at least know what you don't want to be or what you don't want, so you can be different, you can be better. So I, in the opposite, because of my background and because of my mother jokes, and she's like, oh my God, you lived like so many lives. It's like you did so many things compared to her, right? And maybe being a New Yorker now, it's more common to meet people like us, but back in southern Italy, I'm like this weird person, and I'm like, oh no, she's actually very happy. But they can't even believe that I have 5 children now. So it's very different the way they can view things.
And also thanks to her in some way. You were telling us in the green room before we stepped in, you were like, you said similarly, like, no offense to my mom, but she didn't give me much guidance. She was like, but she always said to do your best and to achieve and to be ambitious. And we joked even just now, like, even in motherhood, there is ambition in you. You're like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all 5 times over. And I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to, be this light to other mothers.
I hope so. I hope so. Obviously, that other mother can feel good and inspired sounds weird if I say that, but the truth is, I've been always like this. I was always the friend that would be like encouraging and lifting people up. I love to lift people up. That for me, it's like, if you go through life and you don't share what you learn, or you don't share your point of view when helpful, or if you don't share some like positivity, some optimism, why would you even, where is the fun? I truly think that when life is shared, when memories are shared, when life is shared, that's when you really, really capture that memory, the moment forever, and that also the relationship with somebody. When we are young, it's like, you hang out with people for like hours, and you go to clubs, and you study together, you go to lunch together, you go to the beach together, and you grow up, and a relationship can be formed based on, through a couple of meetups and exchanges. And so I feel like being mindful and true, it's so important, because at the end of the day, people want to see true people and they want to be seen. And I always say that we don't have to be all the same. We are all different. Like, even if you think about the group of mom friends that I have, we are like all so different, but we see each other, we respect each other, we acknowledge each other. One of the things that I think husbands, I'm not blaming my husband, but I just say I feel like maybe male partners tend to do less, because usually they're a bit less emotionally connected to their like subconscious. You want to talk about a problem not because you want to find a solution, just because you want to be heard.
But that's also with children. That's like a real tenet of respectful parenting. You don't have to like. You don't even have to make sense of a child's, or literally anyone's, feelings. You just have to hear them. That is the secret sauce. It's just the witness. That's actually, they say this in like trauma-informed therapy, of which I just like take these classes because I think it's fun.
That's so cool.
But just that, like, what we need is a witness. That's how we digest whatever's going on for us, big or small. What we need are loving, caring eyes and a nod. And it doesn't. But sometimes, sometimes partners, as you're saying, want to fix. Dan, by the way, he's learned not to fix. Did you know this?
Oh,
You can teach
great.
your men. They're changeable. People learn.
Even just like a natural, like a normal exchange, it would be totally fine. Just amongst the three of us, would be like, oh my gosh, like complicated. It gets complicated because they just can't hear, and that's kind of their instinct to find a solution, to find, to provide the, I don't know what's that. Yeah, but anyway, that's a very interesting point of view. And I agree with you. That's if you apply that to the children, they want to be heard. Right?
Because children are people, and people want to be heard, no matter what gender they are.
Absolutely.
Somewhere it gets messed up. But I'm holding out hope. I'm really holding out hope that Dan can be the ripple effect for the men out there.
Yeah.
He can. I shared this information with him, and he really will be like, "Okay, babe. Okay, babe."
That's amazing.
Can you imagine?
That's amazing.
Earth-shattering.
I would say that, I mean, there's always hope. Like, seriously, if he's able to, if he got that, amazing. And I feel like, I mean, I don't even want to get started on the, like, kind of like personal relationship, like in the constitution, because it's like such a huge Pandora vase also. But I do feel like, that's amazing. And that's something that only like your village can give you. Like if you got good friends.
And you've created a village.
Which I didn't have at all.
That's what on Instagram, you created your own sort of community. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, what happened is that, I mean, New York is a big city, obviously, but at the end of the day, it feels small if you know the people, like meaning that, especially in certain fields, then you tend to kind of like get to know each other. And the wonderful thing about it is that the creation of my Instagram profile or presence grew at the same time as my real relationship that I had with these people. We become like real like people who are important in my life, and it's proven to me that social media can actually be good because. Let's say that I had a Facebook account back in 2007, whatever, probably when we all started, right? But back in the day, Facebook wasn't meant to make new friends. It was to connect with people you already knew.
Yeah.
Mostly, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I actually didn't start Instagram when my first was born in 2014, which is what I see many of the people I'm connected to these days. They started around the time they had their first child, and sometimes around the 2014, 15. I started a few years, like more like 2018, a few years later. But to me, it really was a tool to build that virtual village that I couldn't find anywhere else, okay? Now, there are some amazing apps being built. There are some amazing women that come up with some incredible initiatives and podcasts, and Instagram is not the only way, but it was definitely for me a tool and the best way to find that family that I needed, people that I could trust. And that's one side. On the other hand, it's also become a way to make an income, although, again, I don't do that because of the opportunities. It's more like goes together. Like, I want to be a mom, I want to be with my children, and if I can do something on the side and I have fun, I work with the fun brands and make some money, I'll do that. But if I can't because I'm too busy, I'll say no and I'll do it next month. Right. Okay.
How do you get to the point where you are approached by brands that you can say yes or no? That's pretty cool.
So when I got started, I slowly built. So I started to build this community, and I would be approached by brands that were offering me like some, goodies and merchandise, and I would just post about it without being paid. Having said that, there was a great learning curve for me because I had no idea what I was doing in the beginning. No, I'm not saying that I'm now an expert, but I didn't really know what I was doing back in the day. So I was very grateful to get some free stuff and to be able to learn how to create content for a brand and what it means also in terms of there are many ways that the content we produce can be used by brand, okay? Which we're not going to discuss right now. It's probably not the time, but
it's a good thing to discuss. Yeah. It actually is pretty interesting. Okay. No one talks about how to be a mommy influencer. Okay. And when I was in 2017, when I became a mom, I remember a friend of mine who also had a baby around the same time was like, I see why this is such an exciting opportunity for women who want to be with their children.
Yeah.
And who also want to have adult interaction, an outlet for creativity,
Totally, 100%.
An outlet for creativity, as you said earlier in the green room, a solve to loneliness,
Absolutely.
purpose, and income. I mean, it actually is amazing.
I agree with every single word you say. So first of all, escape. Like it felt quite lonely back in the day when I quit my full-time job to figure out what to do next with my children, because I had 3 children by then, and I felt like they were only be taken care of by the nanny, who was doing an amazing job, but obviously it wasn't me, and I wasn't around much.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so this is it. You know, this is what it's going to look like. I really don't see them for most of the day, and then I barely see them on the weekends. Now, I do want to mention something, and then go back to the brand piece in a few seconds. I'm aware that I'm very grateful that I can make the choice to stay home. Having said that, I can also tell you that if I wanted to go work, let's say full time, now with a gap, I don't know how much that would hurt my career or my negotiation power when it comes to salary. But with 4 or 5 children, but probably even 3, most of my salary, if not everything, will go to pay for caregivers and schools. So if someone is
childcare, schools, aftercare, if there are any, as I mentioned,
I would net probably 0, and I won't be with my children. So I want to say this because I had a crazy question from somebody from Europe, and they were like, "Of course, you guys have kids in America because it's easy for you." I was like, "What do you mean? Like, what is it?" I can tell you that in Europe, most people get like up to 6-9 months maternity, fully paid, 1 year when they can leave work like half day, because if they're breastfeeding, like even in Italy, which isn't as good as Germany probably, but still pretty good. So let's make things clear. No, every choice has a price. So, of course, I could go and work full-time like I always did and use that money to pay for a nanny and for a school and for after school and for somebody to pick them up and all the kind of things. And that apply, even if I had 2 children, not 4, it's still incredibly expensive. So many mothers decide also not to take a break because they said, okay, at least, I can be with my children, given that I won't put much in my pocket anyways.
And there are some people, I'll just say, who are like, I'm not good at being with my children and I don't want to.
Exactly.
And I want to work instead. And when I get to tuck them in, at least they have a mommy who made a big deal at work and feels proud of themselves. And power to you.
Totally acceptable. I 100% support that.
Totally.
I know that most people think that I'm, in a good way, hopefully, crazy to have 4 or 5 children, and they really can't understand how I can actually be alive and breathing and pregnant, given that I really haven't had any help since March 2020. But I'm like, everybody's different. And what brings me happiness is, I always was, that's really funny. So I studied political science and international business and economics, but I always had a bit of a creative mind. I would watch MTV videos for hours and be like, oh my gosh, what would I do in that video? How would I interpret that song? I have this creativity inside of me. And I love fashion, obviously, it's hard not to love fashion if you're raised in Italy, but one of the best things. And I never really expressed that, right? So somehow this Instagram journey gave me the opportunity to discover like a sleeping part of my soul. And I was like, and I can be with my children. And by the way, children actually, not much my younger, but my 2 oldest one, now they get it. So my oldest, she loves to go to events with me. She's always asking when we're doing the next thing, when we're getting invited. And she started to understand how brands work. I try to teach her, not in a way that like, in education. It's more like, in a chatty way, tell her, no.
If you were a gardener, you would teach your child how to garden.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting that she really gets it, and she still looks, in some way, she still looks up to me, even though I'm not working as a diplomat, which is what I thought that I would do when I studied, international
I look up to you. And the people in your community look up to you, diplomat or no. Those people who are diplomats they're doing their life's work. But how cool that you get to do your life's work and also
And
you were an only child?
So I do have one sibling who is a brother, and but I would say this: so we're very different, and also I left my own town a long time ago, like in 2006. Then Italy in 2010. But I was already gone, like, even before I left my own town, which is Naples, where Amalfi and Capria. I left, like, metaphorically, like, literally, like, before, because while I was studying, I was already working. I was always very much, because my parents got divorced when I was in college. So there were also some financial changes for us. But the way I am, I was like, okay, great, I'll get to work. And luckily, I was able to succeed in my studies, like, in a way that I truly enjoy studying. I know this also sounds crazy, probably, but I truly enjoy learning new things. So for me, that wasn't like a big deal, something that I would be doing like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to. I really loved studying and learning new things. And then I would work, like, like little jobs on the side. And so I was really like not much at home, and then left Naples 2006. So... And he's a very different person now, so we are just not really connected. In fact, one of the things that I always wish I had that I don't have is a sister. I always wish I had a sister. And don't get me wrong, I had amazing friends. I grew up with many friends that still love me, still text me, and they will be for me there forever. And I know that, and I'm very grateful for them. But I think that as life gets busier, because we get older, we have children, somehow the bond you have with a sibling, like with a sister in this case, because again, I never had one, and I wish I did. It's something probably almost unbreakable. At least I hope so for my children, which is in some ways close the circle a little bit. It's why I felt so compelled suddenly, or at some point, to have more children. I was like,
beautiful.
I didn't have this, but maybe I can give it to them. And I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just so taken with, like, how we've never really hung out. I think I saw you at one event.
Yeah, probably once. Yeah, probably once.
And I just want to, like, just earmark this for the listener. Like, I always assume that when someone on Instagram is, like, happy and beautiful and optimistic, they are lying. I just really do assume that. And I'm sitting across from you, and I'm like, wow, no.
Yeah, so
and it's not from a lack of worldliness and intellect, as you said, right? Because that's what people always say, like, if you're happy, if you're like genuinely giggly and pretty, and you must not be smart. No.
Yeah, I mean, that's an assumption. But you know what? I think that we all, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. We all have this, people look for safety nets. They look for security. It's easier to put people in a box. It's so much easier. I'm an Italian from southern Italy, where people are still misogynist, okay? And when I went back to Italy last time, 2017, I was still working full-time, making quite good money. I had this driver that we had to hire because we were on an island and our house wasn't really where it was supposed to be. Long story. But he would be talking to my husband, like he was the boss, he was the one. I was like, I'm paying you. Why don't you talk to me? It's a joke, but just to say, like, it's very hard for people to overcome sometimes stereotypes and the tendency to always put people in a box and so that you can kind of understand who they are. And the truth is that I feel like, if I think about myself, I'm many things, but in a fluid way even. Like, I don't really see myself as, like, Italian in a way that I have to be obsessed about, raising my kids a certain way. I'm very much at peace with where I am, like an international person who married somebody from different countries, different religion, that I embraced. And I try to teach my kids things about all our, different backgrounds and heritages and cultures, to do a good job at that. And I'm like, I don't think it's that easy to put me in a box, like, because I'm like many things, and I feel like I'm in Israel, and I feel like I can connect very much with people, and I can connect very much with Jews, and I'm Jewish myself today, but I'm also Italian, and I understand that part of being Mediterranean, and I'm also a New York mom. For me, being a mother is being a New Yorker. I came here pregnant with my first from Australia. I came here in 2014 in February, and she was born in July of the same year. And that was after my almost 3 years stay in Australia. So also have this huge passionate connection with Southeast Asia and all the culture and the food and the people and how different they are than Americans or people from the UK. So I just feel like that's who I am. I'm somebody who's just open minded. I just want to keep learning. I want to keep talking to people who appreciate differences. Because I know sometimes we talk about how important it is, and I don't want to get now into the diversity stuff because I'm obviously a supporter of all that, but I think that it's important to appreciate the differences because that's when we actually value them. If we don't see them, it's like, okay, I don't want to really say that, but maybe, you are, I'm white, you are black. No, it's more about, I love the way you are, as you are, right? And I feel like, I don't know, it's just easier for people sometimes to put a label on people.
Yeah.
So
also, if you're looking for it, we attract who we are.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. And so like, I think if you're like looking to sniff out the BS or the lies or the dark or the edge or the you'll find it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm tickled by the idea that like motherhood with 5 children can be as delightful as I feel it.
It is,
for
but
you.
I want to say something though, and I know you obviously said it with love, and I totally appreciate it. So I think everybody has a different like a coping mechanism with challenges and times are hard and stuff. I have some sort of selective memories. I'm not kidding.
Oh.
Even when I talked to my mother, now she was here recently after 3 years, she was like, "How do you remember that?" And it was some like not really good memory from the time she was divorcing my father's time. And I'm like, I don't know. I seriously do not remember.
Yeah.
She almost got upset with me. And then I would tell her, listen, the truth is I want to remember the good stuff. I don't want to remember the shitty stuff. And probably that's what my brain does. Having said that, I wanted to add, obviously, I personally, for example, tend to share more when I'm happy. But that's something that I said a lot in stories, on posts. Like, the happier I am, the more I share. Sometimes I don't share just because I don't have the time. That's different. But generally, if I'm very happy, I tend to share more because I feel like I can give more. Because you got to give, right? When you feel good, right? When you are exhausted or tired, it's harder to be giving, right? But I think one of the secrets to really be able to establish a real connection, if anybody listening that is interested into this kind of like social media path of aspect, it's important to stay true. So there are, although maybe not often, they're more sporadic, posts about how hard it was for me, for example, to realize through the pandemic, and that's probably something we should have touched also earlier today, but the pandemic made me realize that some people were just not great people. And I had to let go of these people. Actually, there's one of the posts that I pinned. It's probably a black and white picture on the right side on my Instagram page, where I actually speak about how that changed me, because I realized that some people weren't just for me there at all. And I'm not the kind of person who relies on people much already. So yeah, that caused me lots of sadness. Also shifting, I would say, philosophically speaking, accepting that there can be bad people, there can be bad guys. It's something hard for me to do because I tend to only see the light and the good in people. So absolutely, I'm talking about people who are supposed to be the people that they should have been there for me or for us, for my family. So there's been lots of disappointments, like lots of things that I had to fight for, like even the situation with my mom at some point got very peculiar because she was hit very hardly by the pandemic from a mental health standpoint.
Yeah.
And I didn't see her for over 3 years,
Wow.
And I couldn't get her to come here. So, and I felt so lonely in that because I'm the kind of person that most people will be like, oh my gosh, that's your daughter. She's so fun. Why don't you go visit her? And she'll be like, I don't know, I can't go. And I'm like, wow, if I'm this daughter that everybody would like to hang out with, why then my mom doesn't want to hang out with me? So there are lots of things. And I actually spoken a lot about this on Instagram, also in my stories, I share this struggle. So yeah, I mean, luckily, I would say health-wise, I've had so far no like regular pregnancy. So usually around pregnancies, there's lots of very very honest, but very also I try to be insightful and honest and also optimistic because I don't want to scare moms. Okay, I also don't want to scare moms.
How does our listener get to find you? They're not lucky enough to go to dinner with you like we are.
Yeah. So they can find me on Instagram, which is where I spend most of my free time, which is at Daniela Davidson, which is DANILA, DAVIDSON, like the motorcycle. And then I don't really have a website, mostly because when I started Instagram, I don't know, like most of moms were really like, okay, we're not necessarily blogging through the blog anymore, but we can actually do just do social media blogging through the platform. So yeah, that's how you can find me. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being the light that you are and
so
for
sweet.
really embracing everyone's differences and creating the community that you've created.
That's so sweet. Thank you so much.